Hi, today we're going to go through a patient case. We have an individual here, Logan Morris, who's a high-level travel athlete and high school baseball player. We're going to go through some of the things we've seen with his throwing and how we're addressing some of those things with self-stretches and mobilizations. So with Logan here, one of the predominant things we found in our evaluation, BSMA, is hip flexor, psoas, inflexibility. He's extremely tight in the front of his hips, which precludes him from accessing certain ranges of motion in the throw. And we'll show you actually a video of his throwing after we demonstrate with this modified Thomas test how inflexible he actually is. So I'm going to have you bring this knee all the way up to your chest, lean back, and you can see that there's a huge distance here between his hamstring and the table, and then look at the angle here of his distal leg to his proximal thigh. And so something we've been doing for the last 4 weeks is actually having him do some hip flexor and rectus stretches on his own, as well as when he actually comes in and we take him through a few treatment things and a few biomechanical sessions. We've actually been stretching it on the table, which is something we're going to show you right after you look at this throwing video. So when you're looking at this video, I'm going to have it up on the screen here, and you can see that he doesn't actually ever go into hip extension in the throw, and he kind of rotates, maintaining hip flexion as he rotates around his body, and you'll see that with the arrow right here on the screen. So because of that limitation, that's actually preventing him from accessing all the miles an hour he could potentially throw. And he's already throwing mid to low 80s, so when we actually increase hip flexibility and allow him to get farther down the mound and accelerate over a greater distance, we really expect that velocity to go up. And it's already started to tick up just a tad bit, and we've been dealing with some other things. So because of that hip end flexibility and some of the sequencing areas that we've been working on throughout the season, he's come down with a little anterior to medial forearm tightness, which we've treated with some soft tissue mobilization and some exercises. And a lot of that's gone away as we've continued to move through the progression and get him into a more biomechanically efficient model. But something that's really preventing him is that hip. We're going to cut right here and we'll show you the hip stretch. So for this rectus iliopsoas stretch, I'm going to have him prone on the table. He's actually going to have his foot up here. I'm going to block his foot a little bit and then kind of pull him back until his hip axis is lined up with the axis of the joint of the table here. You can already see there's some distance here. A lot of people would say you don't need to raise the table up, but I like to try to get a little bit of an angle, and with him I don't have to raise it high at all. Someone more flexible, I'll raise it up a little bit so I can actually press more into hip extension, which you'll see in a minute. But you can see that he's already got a lot of distance, and we haven't even gone into the stretch yet. So from here, I'm going to flex up, and you see he's already laying in external rotation. And when we take him through and look at Craig's test, we find that he's not really retroverted, and this would be an extreme case of retroversion. So really what that tells us is he's just tight and inflexible, and actually when you assess joint play, you'll find that it's more of a muscular elasticity compared to a joint capsule tightness or bony structural tightness. So I'm sure he already feels a little bit of a stretch here, and we haven't even really gone into it. From here, I'll have him activate into external rotation, so he'll push into my chest and then relax into my chest and relax, trying to fatigue the muscle a little bit. Go into my chest, relax, push your knee into the table, relax. Now I'll have him activate more rectus. Straighten your knee. I don't let him go at all. Relax. And I can take up more knee flexion into my chest. Relax. And this is a very intense iliopsoas rectus stretch once we get into it. Into my chest again. Relax. And he's more tight on his right hip, which is interesting because that's the one that's going to need to be more flexible in the throw. Push into my chest, push your knee straight, and then relax. Take up a little more slack. So I'm able to reach the other edge of the table. From here, I'm going to take my forearm either on the ischial tube or the proximal femur and push into extension. He's going to push his knee into the table. Relax. And I'm gonna really, you can see he's shaking a little bit. I don't want to push too hard. From here, I'm going to have him push with his right arm and rotate and look back at me. So rotate your whole chest, other direction. From there, I'm going to have him hold that rotation to increase the stretch. So he's actually rotating a little bit through his lumbar spine, which makes him stretch through the psoas. Then I'm going to have him lean to his left. So he's got a little stool over there. He's going to lean his whole body over the stool. And I'm going to take up more internal rotation and press. Now, when I do this, he's going to try to rotate his ankle with me. Rotate your ankle towards the wall with me for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to slowly come out of it. So it's a really intense hip stretch, but it's something that he really needs, and then we reinforce it with another stretch, which I'll show you here in a second. He's just going to relax and recover from that, and then we're going to go right into a self stretch that we use all the time. So we just want to show you a little quick retest here before we move to that self stretch. He's going to lay back and do that modified Thomas test again, and we can already see that I can barely get my hand under here, and he's almost hanging perpendicular to the floor. And before, where I had a bunch of room to do like this, we don't have it anymore because we've stretched those tissues out. So huge improvement in terms of range of motion, but we got to reinforce that over time and then reinforce that with exercises and then self-mobilizations at home. So we're going to cut to a self-mobilization here. So Logan's self-mobilization here is actually similar to what we just did, except he's now using a band. We're using an SFMA or a Gray Cook band in this case. He's going to be lunged or kneeling, half kneeling towards the attachment point. He's going to internally rotate that back leg, so turn your ankle out, hips forward, and then he's going to tuck his butt under, so he's not arching at all through the lumbar spine, and then squeeze his glute and push his hip forward, making sure he's not arching through here, keeping this foot rotated out. Sometimes we have people put a kettlebell right here. He's going to hold that for 2 sets of a minute every day, even up to twice a day, pushing his knee into the mat, trying to pull his knee forward, then relaxing and going farther. So from there, a dynamic progression is come on up into that lunge, Logan. So he's going to come up into a lunge here, straighten this back leg, start to feel a stretch in the front, and then he's going to actually reach up, rotate this way, and reach back at the same time. So we're taking up the slack more proximally, and we're trying to internally rotate this way at the same time. And then he's going to come in it and out of it. So he's going to come forward, and he's going to rotate back and over the top. So rotate back and over the top again. Perfect. So this is a great one to do in the morning, great one to do before games. But you can see how important hip extension is. And we'll post a follow-up on Logan as we get farther into training with him. But also make sure to go, we put a post up of Logan where he actually hit a home run, so go ahead and give that a like as well. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell when you subscribe and hit a thumbs up on this video. That way we know that you like this content, and also you won't miss any of our videos in the future, because we're going to be coming out with a new video every single week. All right guys, see you next time.